Prismatic Hunter finally got hit by the nerf hammer, rightly so in my eyes, but what if I told you guys about a secret build that virtually no one is using right now, that actually makes Prismatic Hunter supremely deadly again with even more cheese this time? I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one, that's how good this build is. Although Snare Bomb and Swarm Grenades got some nerfs, the big blow to most Prismatic Hunters out there were the nerfs to Threaded Spectre. It's got a longer cooldown time now. Honestly, this wasn't too bad a nerf, but now if you shoot a Threaded Spectre down, regardless whether it's you shooting it down or an enemy, it won't generate threadlings. Threadlings apply a ton of pressure to enemies. They track enemies down, deal damage, are a massive pain to shoot, and take the focus away from you, which means you no longer get that added bonus from a Spectre. That is, unless you use these specific exotic boots, Balance of Power, the newish exotic boots which came from the Final Shape expansion and have largely been in the shadows thanks to exotic class items. Now most people have been using a class item with Ophidian and Coyote to get double dodges and amazing handling on their weapons, and if you have that role, there's still an argument to use that role over any other item. But this recent nerf to threadling generation when you shoot a Spectre down does change that in my eyes. With Balance of Power, whether you or an enemy shoots down a Spectre, it will generate not 2 but 4 threadlings. Yes, from 0 threadlings to 4. 2 whilst the Spectre is still up, and then another 2 when the Spectre explodes. 4 threadlings is more threadlings than normal Threaded Spectre used to generate pre-nerf, so it's nothing to scoff at. This alone should convince you to switch to this exotic, but that's not all. Balance of Power arguably has a stronger feature that goes under the radar, pun intended. If you're within 15 meters of your Threaded Spectre, you'll receive this hidden buff on the left hand side of the screen which will take you off your enemy radar completely. And this is better than invisibility. You can jump, sprint, shoot within this 15 meter radius and you won't ping your enemy's radar. Not only that, but your Spectre will last 34% longer with Balance of Power, meaning you have longer time to abuse this feature. This additional benefit is an absolute game changer because now there's 2 levels of radar manipulation from one ability. Your Threaded Spectre exerts a radar presence in itself and you're taken away from the radar, meaning if you deploy your Spectre down in a tactical location, you can distract your enemy and peek from a different angle, and they won't suspect a thing. Sometimes you'll have enemies facing the complete wrong way when you engage them, or in some cases, enemies just run past you. That's how powerful this ability is. We even have another radar manipulation tool in our kit, Snare Bomb. Snare Bomb sticks to surfaces, also exerts a radar presence, and adds to the whole radar manipulation of this build. Once it detonates, it creates a cloud of smoke which lasts for 5 seconds, deals damage over time, disorientates enemies, and weakens them so they take more damage. Now the length of time it sticks around for before it detonates did get a big nerf, by quite a bit, from 10 seconds to 3.5 seconds. So it won't annoy your enemies by pinging their radar for as long as it did before, but it's still the best melee in our kit by a long shot. And it's super deadly when you pair it with your grenade, Swarm Grenade. Now, I've already been asked whether it's worth running Marksman's Dodge or Gambler's Dodge after the nerfs. Marksman's Dodge for some reason got less of a cooldown nerf than Gambler's when I tested it, but there's actually 2 fragments that makes this a moot point. Gambler's Dodge gives you your melee back instantly if you use it near an enemy. When your melee Snare Bomb detonates, it triggers Facet of Dawn, which for 5 seconds gives you Radiant. This then also triggers another fragment in our build, Facet of Hope, which gives you a whopping 60% class ability regeneration buff. This is huge in lowering that Gambler's Dodge cooldown time. A big shout out to Red Death, which is not only an S tier weapon in its own right, but because it triggers elemental buffs like Cure and Restoration, it will also trigger Facet of Hope a ton, so try this weapon out as well with the build if you are struggling for class ability regeneration. So yeah, overall most of the time I didn't actually notice the difference in cooldown between the 2 dodge types, but trust me, I did notice the lack of snare bombs with Marksman's Dodge, so in my eyes Gambler's Dodge is the clear winner. And for people saying Prismatic Hunter has been nerfed heavily, don't get me started on the super Storm's Edge. This thing is basically 3 shutdown supers in one, and it hasn't been touched with the nerf. Amazing neutral gameplay and an amazing super, this class is still S tier, trust me guys. Let's go over the rest of our build. So I'm running Storm's Edge, Gambler's Dodge, Strafe Jump, Snare Bomb, and Swarm Grenade. Our aspects are Threaded Spectre along with Winter's Shroud. Winter's Shroud will slow enemies when you use dodge near them, which is super helpful in securing the kill. Our fragments include Facet of Hope and Facet of Dawn, which I've already talked about. Facet of Courage for the 10 discipline bump, Facet of Awakening, which will actually generate things like Ionic Traces when we get super kills, and then depending on what elemental weapon you use, you'll generate other pickups which will restore ability energy. And this fragment gives you 10 resilience. Yeah, it's an all-round amazing fragment. Facet of Ruin for the 10 mobility bump, and if you're using conditional finality, it will make the ignition stronger. And then we have Facet of Blessing, so that when we kill our opponents with a melee, whether it's smoke or a standard melee, it will trigger health regeneration. In terms of armor mods, the key here is to maximize orb of power generation and funnel that into class ability generation. So on my cloak, I run one Reaper mod. So after dodging and using Threaded Spectre, for the 10 seconds afterwards, if I get a kill with my weapons, I'll generate an orb of power. We also have Bomber to generate more grenade energy and powerful attraction so we can hoover up any nearby orbs. On my boots I have 2 insulation mods and 1 absolution mod to maximize our class ability gains when we do pick up an orb of power. You could change one of those insulation mods to recuperation so that when you use your dodge and you hoover up any nearby orbs thanks to powerful attraction, it will give you a nice little health bump similar to Worm Husk. For the rest of your armor, run the relevant unflinching, dexterity and targeting mods for the weapons you use. In terms of stat distribution, the number 1 stat in this build is mobility. You want to aim for 10 mobility so your dodge cooldown and Threaded Spectre and by proxy snare bomb cooldowns are all minimized. Then you want 10 recovery. This will minimize the cooldown before you start health regeneration, which can be the difference between you surviving or being killed when an enemy is chasing you down. There is a greater benefit that recovery provides at the higher tiers, so it is worth going for 10 recovery over something like 8 or 9. Then make sure you have at least 3 resilience. 3 helps to mitigate some resilience thresholds so certain guns don't kill you really fast. Then aim for 10 discipline or as close to 10 as possible to minimize your swarm grenade cooldown. Finally, go for intellect to minimize super cooldowns for Trials games. Strength is the lowest priority stat here because we get our smoke back from our dodge, so our mobility stat matters way more. You can use whatever weapons you want with this build, but some sweaty primary weapons I enjoyed using include Elsie's Rifle or Red Death for pulse rifles, Igneous Hammer or Ace of Spades for hand cannons, Kvostov or Sumner for auto rifles. In terms of special weapons, I preferred using it with a shotgun, such as the Crafted Someday or the Matador 64, or if you have a good compass rose from the recent Solstice event, you could use that instead. So there you have it, my complete guide to the updated Prismatic Hunter PvP build. Balance of Power is the new meta in my eyes. It provides so many benefits to an already powerful ability. If you enjoyed what I talked about today, remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for more Destiny build videos, both PvP and PvE. I'm Mr. Ronnet, and that's it for today. Peace out, guys.